Welcome, everybody, to What the Tech, the last show of the year. I'm joined by Paul Thurrott, as I am each and every week. How you doing, Paul?
Good.
Had a good Christmas?
I did.
Did you get anything good?
The hell happened to my hair? You just like put me on screen and I can see how awful I look. Anyway, I did. We tried to go light on the technology gifts this year, but the coolest gift that I got is sort of technology. It's that thing we were just talking about, the SodaStream water carbonation system.
Yeah, I've seen the ads on TV for a while for those things, and I'm like, hey, you know what? It's pretty cool. So what do? It just it makes water into
it
carbonated
adds gas
water?
to water.
That's all it does. And then you add the
I
flavors?
drink San Pellegrino every day.
Okay.
All day long, And it's not so much like a money-saving thing as it is. My wife is the one who ends up usually getting it. And, big, heavy bottles of glass in a case is, it's heavy.
Sure.
And so we have a water filtration thing here. We can get water out of the tap, and you just plug it into this thing and a couple of pulls on the lever, and you have basically the same thing. So
it's like magic.
it is like magic.
It's like
Well, and it came with these. It comes with flavor stuff if you want to add flavors to it, which I will not use. But my kids were fascinated by this, so they've been playing with the SodaStream ripoff versions of Coke and Mountain Dew and Dr. Pepper.
Is it as good as the real thing or no?
It literally is exactly the same thing. Yeah.
That's hysterical.
Yeah.
No, we didn't go crazy this year. My wife wanted a elliptical machine, so I got her an elliptical, and she got 2 couches for the studio.
Nice.
And that was pretty much it. And then I was telling Paul before we started that everybody decided that I need a flashlight from Brookstones.
Yes.
So I literally got about 8 or 9 flashlights from there, and I had to go and return it today, and it was absolutely awful, the place.
We went to a furniture store that no, actually it wasn't the day after Christmas, or was it? What's today? Tuesday? I guess yesterday was the day after Christmas. Yes.
Yes.
So actually we did go shopping. We bought my son a bedroom set at a big furniture store, and I have to say it was better than I anticipated.
I'm just glad this madness is over.
I have
the madness of the holidays. I'm just really glad. I'm waiting for the new year. I'm waiting for a fresh start. That's what I'm hoping for.
The only thing is, there's this weird downtime now because it's still the holidays. Kids are home on vacation in my case, but I have to work every day, and I don't really feel like I do. And it's a bad combination,
Yeah.
Like I feel like I'm not at work, even though I kind of am.
Yeah. Well, you work from home. You're like me.
Yeah. It just doesn't. It feels weird.
Yeah, it also feels weird when people turn around and say, well, no, you work from home. You have plenty of time.
Oh, yeah. No,
I love that.
That's a lifelong problem I've had.
It's one of the greatest things ever said to me, and I have to just agree with them because there's no explaining.
Hey, you're not doing anything. Can you help me move some furniture today?
Yeah. Hey, can you do me a favor? Can you drive me? It's a whole thing. So today's show is the Wishlist prediction show. I urge you guys in the chat room. There's about almost 60 people in there now. Wow. If you change your nickname from the default GFQ viewer nickname that everybody's assigned to whatever you choose it to be, we don't judge here at the network. You click on menu, then change nickname, and you could come up with your nickname. We want you guys to participate and let us know what you hope to see in 2012, because this will be a very interesting year for technology and the way that things have been going at the end of the year. It seems like the last 6 months have been a boom with mobile devices. Android, coming up with their latest release, the iPhone 4S. Hopefully, we'll see better tablets. But there's a lot that's going to go on. Paul and I have created 2 lists. One for our wish list. I believe we each have 5. I have 4 on mine. I forgot to add one. And our predictions list, which we have 5 predictions as well for the year. So you could, if you're at gfqlive.tv, because we're on Ustream and Justin TV also. If you're at gfqlive.tv, you could participate in the chat with us. So, Paul, I want to, I'll go to my first wish list. I guess you know what we'll do? We'll just alternate. I'll go to one and you go to yours. Mm-hmm. I was supposed to write better.
We're going to do wish list first.
Yeah. I was supposed to write better, but I wrote betting, which would be very interesting. Betting internet TV integration.
I took that as betting on.
Yeah. Oh, did you? Okay. It was just a major typo because I was rushing. Better TV internet integration, which we have seen this attempted for the last decade. Web TV, Google TV, even Media Center, Boxy Box, Roku. We've seen this.
Yep.
And I still don't think anybody is doing it right.
I think that the stuff that's out there is okay for a certain audience, but I agree. I think you had
It's
said
okay
this,
for
and
us.
I said it separately, that in both of our wives' cases, it was very meaningful to them that this stuff just be built in and that they not have to even do something as seemingly uncomplicated as changing the input on the TV.
Yeah.
Right. They're going from HDMI 1 to 2, made whatever it was a non-starter. I spent some time with my wife last night actually looking at the Xbox 360 and the various TV and entertainment services that are now available on that.
Yeah, I never asked you. What did she think of it?
You know, it's she does some exercise shows in the morning, and I thought, you know, maybe there'll be something on Hulu or on Netflix or on one of these other services, and maybe you could use those. I was curious to see her reaction to this, and when you sort of count the sheer number of steps you have to take to get from turning the TV on, turning it to the input that the Xbox is on, turning on the Xbox, going to the video screen, going to my video apps, going to Hulu, going into Hulu. Even when you pin something in Hulu, which is not at the top of Hulu, it's on like a subscreen. I don't know how many steps I just laid out right there, but it's several.
No, it is.
And she said, you know what? I don't care how good this is. I'm not going to do that. You know, it's just too complicated for her. And I would use her as kind of a benchmark for your typical consumer, not because she's a very smart woman, but she just doesn't care about technology. I think a lot of us, you and I, and people who listen to this podcast most likely, without realizing it, I think we put up with a lot of stuff because we're just interested in technology.
We do, and we kind of ignore it too, and it
it
becomes part of the process.
Right, and in some ways, that amount of time that we waste doing these tasks that are actually unrelated to the action we're trying to accomplish are what is interesting to us. But, you know, I think to people like my wife and your wife and other people, not so much. So there's some good stuff on there. I don't mean to denigrate what Microsoft did with the Xbox 360. I like it. But I agree with you. I even on our own TV, I keep bringing up this kind of Yahoo widget thing that we have on this low-end HD TV that we bought, this Vizio thing. You know, that stuff works really well, and it's really easy. It's right on the remote, you know? And so I agree with you. The other thing I just would throw out real quick is you've probably seen the TV ads that Toshiba has now, where there's some executive from Toshiba and he's being sold this product internally.
Yeah.
And he thinks through this crazy scenario where someone flies off a cliff and he says, no, this will have to ship with with Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
And that particular ad is for a TV that has Wi-Fi built into it. And I think you're right. I think that
I think that's going to be the big thing this year, and it kind of has to be, right, because we did the 3D thing, and which that's on our separate list, and I absolutely think this is going to be the year we kind of forget about 3D.
Yeah.
But that's a prediction. But I do think that better internet integration, better media center integration in the TV itself, rather than having to get a set-top box. We saw Google. Eric Schmidt stated that 80% or majority of the TVs in 2012 will have Google TV on them. So
that's pretty incredible, considering that approximately 0% of the TVs sold today have Google TV built into them.
And the manufacturers that were creating Google TV want nothing to do with it. Creating devices for it.
So that's going to be quite a turnaround. I'm curious to see
for
that
Logitech. Happen. Logitech is not a stupid company, and they're very experienced with the consumer market with electronics. For them to turn around and say this was the biggest waste, and
I think
Google's not ready.
It's too complex for Logitech. Logitech makes simple things. You know, they make speakers that plug into your iPod, or they make remote controls, and they make keyboards, and they make or maybe not keyboards, but they make accessories essentially.
Yeah.
And I think Google TV was just too complex. There's no doubt though that there's an interesting model there, and as much as I've made fun of Google TV, and you have too, I can almost see it because being built in matters.
It does matter, and it does work.
Yeah.
For most people.
And that new UI would be okay for that, and would work like that Yahoo widget thing I keep mentioning. Years and years ago, by the way, when Microsoft was making Windows Media Center, the question they first asked was, do they do this like a Xbox device, or do they do it as a computer? And back in 2001, 2002, the only way they could get the power they needed was to make it a computer. But I can assure you, if those guys were starting over from scratch today, same project, they would try to get this on silicon, and they would build it into TVs, and they would build it into DVD players, and they wouldn't make a software program that ran on top of a complex computer operating system.
Well, I think it is going to happen because I don't know if you noticed, there was a Verizon Fios viral video they put out. They put out a video stating that they're going to get rid of the set-top box in 2012. They're hoping, and the angle that they
picked,
picked,
see this.
It was such a convoluted angle. They picked that it's energy efficiency, and they're going green by getting rid of set-top boxes, which I didn't really understand. I don't think anybody cares how much electricity the cable box is using.
All right, so on the Xbox 360, when you have Fios service, you can run the Fios app on that Xbox 360, and it does some check. It doesn't check against my account number. It doesn't. I don't log into it with my Verizon account, but it does some kind of a check, and it determines that I am on Fios, and that it can thus give me this service, and it does it. I don't know how it does it. I don't actually really care. But that suggests to me that what you're saying is possible, that other smart devices could do the same thing. That why can't I use an iPad or a computer or whatever to blast, to control content that I would then watch on my TV set? A smart remote control. Why should there be anything? Why couldn't it be a Google TV app, by the way?
Yeah, who knows? Why can't there be?
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's what they're thinking. I would love to see that.
Yeah.
The worst part about Fios, well, actually, that's not true. One of the worst things about Fios, because the other one would have to be that router, is that you have this set-top box that looks like it's from the 1970s. It's an awful machine,
Well, they're gigantic.
It does DVR and stuff, but it's terrible.
Well, they're saying they're going to get rid of everything. It's going to be one server box, and everybody's going to have like a little tiny thing that actually they said it would go in the back of your TV, like it would snap right onto the back of the TV, so you see nothing.
Neat.
Who knows if it'll work?
It's fine.
Yeah.
An Apple TV type device would do this very nicely. Of course it would.
Paul, what is on your wish list?
All right. So on my wish list, let me see how fanciful this is. Well, all right. So the first one, I guess I'll start. Number one is that thing I've been talking about, which is this 7-inch version of an iPad, right? Which could be marketed as an iPod Touch. It doesn't really matter. One of the things that occurred to me was in reviewing and using the Kindle Fire, which, by the way, my wife has started liking a lot. She's actually starting to use the Kindle Fire every day.
See, my wife is noticing that the battery life is not as good as the iPad, and she keeps saying, well, I don't understand why the iPad works so, like the battery life is so long on the iPad, and on the Kindle it's not. And I'm like, well.
So Apple has done a tremendous job with battery life over the years. This was something that was not a strength for them before. They've gotten very aggressive with power management, and they use the right chipsets and everything. I think what I would say there is that is a place where Apple can excel because they've been doing it for years and years, and they're really good at it. And this is the first LCD-based device that Amazon ever made.
By the way, Paul, there was a report out that Apple is looking for hydrogen-powered batteries.
Yeah.
So
because their devices don't explode enough on flames
exactly.
already.
Yeah. I would love to see that.
Actually, is hydrogen inflammable? See, I always get this one wrong.
Well, I think it is.
Is it flammable?
I think it is.
Okay.
I'm not a scientist. I'm just making that up, Paul.
So anyway, okay.
Just letting everybody know, I am not a scientist.
It occurred to me that what I'm really looking for is a 7-inch version of the iPad, right? And that the thing, again, it comes down to a lot of different things, but that a 7-inch version of an iPad would be super thin and get great battery life like their other devices. That it would be beautiful to look at. That it would tie into all of their content stuff and yada, yada, yada. So I really feel like you could take today's iPad 2, shrink it down, keep the screen resolution exactly the same. Apps don't have to change. And that for a certain segment of the population, by the way, a really big one, that segment that never wants to create content. And by creating content, I don't mean writing short emails. I mean writing a book. They're not going to hook it up to a keyboard. That for watching movies and browsing the web and reading books, all those things that do work really well in the Kindle Fire.
Yeah.
That would be better on an iPod Touch.
I've thought about that for a while. If for people wondering, there is a dog sitting behind me on camera. Yeah, my dog is hanging out with us today. I have wondered if it would be beneficial for Apple to put something else out like this, because they their whole thing is that they separate themselves from everybody else, and there are many people putting out a 7-inch tablet.
Right.
do they want to enter that market and compete at that market? Because that would mean a cheaper device.
Well, here's the thing. An iPad, the 7-inch version of the iPad is not going to change Apple's, overall business picture dramatically. They're doing great as it is. But what it buys them is an answer to those other tablets, and it will stop customers from going, a certain number of customers from going to Amazon or to Samsung or whoever else is making 7-inch tablets, because even though Apple's will be more expensive, it won't be dramatically more expensive. Right? Like today, if your choice is $199 for a Kindle Fire or $499 for the very cheapest version of the iPad, I mean, those things aren't even close.
Yeah.
But if there was an iPad that was even as much as $100 more than a Kindle Fire, I think a lot of people who would otherwise have bought the Fire would say, okay, let's go with the safe choice. And it's really just a way to stop people from even considering these other things, which are so low prices to be ludicrous. Because right now, in looking at the coming year, that's going to harm them. And I think that would be a way to prevent that from happening. It's not like the next big market for Apple.
No.
I haven't hit on some genius idea. It's not that. It's just an idea. It's something that I want personally, which is why it's on the wish list, right? But I think it's something that a lot of people want, and I think it would help prevent people from, adopting Android. Essentially, not all of them. Maybe not enough of them, but some percentage of them.
Yeah, it would be interesting. Now, as far as let's predict it. Do you think it'll happen?
Right. No, I guess if I was going to bet money on it, no, because ultimately, when I think about Apple and I think about the culture at Apple and the kind of hubris of Apple, I see them saying, no, we define the market, we don't follow the market.
And one of the viewers in the room wants to know, what do you think would be a profitable? Well, what do you think would be an appropriate pricing structure for that?
Well, all you have to do is look at the pricing structure for the iPod Touch.
Okay.
And then you look at the pricing structure for the iPad, and then you put it exactly in the middle.
$399.
Well, no, I mean, ideally, you would have a very low-end version of it that would compete with the Fire, and would be $299. And then there would be like a 16 gig version for $399.
That would definitely be a Tim Cook move, because I don't think through Steve Jobs' guidance they would have ever done that.
Right. So in other words, and
we are seeing,
in other words, it would be a Paul Thurrott move. To me, this is just very pragmatic. Like, we have this thing over here. Well, we have this thing over here, and look, there's a hole right in the middle. It'd be very simple to do this. The Steve Jobs reaction to that would be something like, no, that's idiotic. Nobody wants a tablet that size.
Yeah, unanimously in the room, which I'm surprised at, people are saying that it would work. They would be interested.
I think it would
in
work too, but that's also why I think it's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
But that's I'd like to see it. That's something I'd like to see personally.
Yeah. I have my second thing on the wish list, and I know for a fact, I get this email regularly throughout the entire year. About once or twice a month, I'll get this email.
Yeah.
And people will say, when are we getting USB 3.0 webcams?
Yeah, anything. USB 3, anything.
USB 3, anything. But generally I get webcams because of what we do here, and a lot of people are, they're interested in webcasting and podcasting, and they want to know. I really hope this is the year that we start seeing USB 3.0 webcams, because it would really fill that void that we've had for many years. USB 3.0 came out last year. We have not really seen much with USB 3.0, but I mean, what can you do other than hard drives? I mean, how much faster is the printer going to work? When you think about it in that sense.
Right. So I think there's more to it than that. First of all, it shouldn't just be hard drives, right? It should be storage devices of all kinds. I mean, why can't we have 32 gig thumb drives that are also USB 3? Maybe we do. I haven't seen one, but I could see that there might be one. Okay, that'd be neat. I believe that there's an issue, a bigger issue with USB, which just has to do with offloading the bandwidth. That by opening up a device to a wider path, you're assuring better overall performance across the board. Okay. It's not a big deal for a printer, I guess, unless you're doing heavy duty printing. And honestly, the very notion of I need to adopt the very latest technology, and yet I'm printing a lot for some reason, are two totally,
Yeah, sure.
incompatible goals,
Sure.
I guess. But yeah, I don't understand why all this stuff wouldn't be USB. In other words, if you have a device of some kind, and I may argue that you shouldn't, hopefully we won't be doing this direct device to device sync, but it would be a lot quicker over USB.
Mm-hmm.
Just like when Apple went with the original iPod, they went with FireWire because it was 400 megabits per second, not 11. It was a big difference.
Yeah.
I think that's what it was. Same thing. USB 3 gives you that big jump in bandwidth, and I think it's a big deal. It could enable very exciting things along the lines of USB based auxiliary displays. We already see things like that on laptops and so forth. I mean, why not? That could open up that market as well. So it should all be USB. Why wouldn't every port on a
USB 3.0, yeah.
on a computer be USB 3? Why wouldn't it be?
Because it's backwards compatible.
I know, it doesn't make any sense.
But as far as the webcams go, this is the interesting thing. You have to realize most people don't need it, and some people are doing HD, and I understand that, but there's so much more they could do with the webcams.
Yeah.
Before they could do it.
And people are using those a lot.
A lot. Start putting better lenses on these things. Start making them have bigger sensors. I mean, there's a lot that you could do, and I think with USB 3.0, the bandwidth is a lot more, so you're able to put through higher information, more information through the pipes, considering what you could do with USB 2.0. It's on my wish list, but I don't think we're going to see it.
Well, I think USB 3 adoption overall can only get better this year. I mean, there are worst case scenarios. I mean, what about that Thunderbolt thing? That hasn't taken off in any meaningful way at all. I don't think there's a single non-Mac computer that has a Thunderbolt port built into it.
Are we going to start seeing it? I mean, which I'm surprised that Intel didn't make an announcement with their. I thought with those ultrabooks we would start seeing Thunderbolt ports on them, considering Intel's so behind it.
Maybe we will. Maybe I could go. Maybe I could even go find that out right now. But I almost look at this as kind of a "screw you, Apple" reaction from the rest of the PC industry. That's like, we're getting tired of following you down every path. This is just like another way of doing the same thing. And they've used it. Apple's never been very interested in doing the type of thing I'd like to see in laptops, which is like a true docking type solution, because it's messy,
Yeah.
And this is kind of a cheap way for them to get around that. The Thunderbolt port functions in some ways as a, like a cable-based docking system almost, where you can plug a laptop into a big screen and so forth.
Yeah. So it's on my wish list, but I don't think we're going to start seeing a major transition to a lot of these USB 3.0 webcams or any device, because I don't think it's that necessary for many people. They just don't care. Or
there may be issues around quality too. If some company was going to make a webcam that was USB 3, they would be crazy not to make it work on USB 2 as well. And maybe that's an issue. Maybe for something like that, it's a problem to have one device of that type that would work well over both, not network types, but connection types, the different bandwidth speeds that you get. So I don't know.
Yeah. So that was mine. Paul, what is yours?
So number 2 on my wish list is that in 2012, that Windows Phone would establish itself as the clear number 3 in the mobile market. And for that to happen, a number of things need to happen. RIM needs to fall off the face of the earth.
RIM is number 3 currently, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which
I mean,
it's
with
realistic.
Like the bad kind of bullet, like they're flying downwards right now.
But I mean, it's a realistic thing that could possibly happen.
Yeah. So, and I was going to say with double-digit market share, and that means 10% or higher. It's realistic, but it's not necessarily a given, right? Right now, Windows Phone has somewhere in the 2 to 3% market share range. I believe on the best wireless carrier in the United States, by which I mean the best for Windows Phone, they have somewhere close to 5 or 6% market share, something like that. But on the worst ones, like Verizon, they represent about 1% of all the sales, all the phone sales that those carriers make. So it varies widely from carrier to carrier, depending on how well they're supported. AT&T tends to do a better job, have multiple devices, be a little earlier to market, and so forth. So things are a little higher there. But across the board, I'd like to see Windows Phone, be the clear number 3. And the only, I guess, one of the many downsides here is that they could do this and it might still not matter, because maybe, as with the PC market before it, really there's only room for 2 major players.
Well, you know what? It also you have to put this into consideration. The reason why they are not number 3 right now is because Verizon has been very slow at picking up Windows phones.
Sure.
I don't even. Do we have Mango phones yet or no? No. So that's a major setback when you're in this competitive market.
Yeah.
With Nokia coming into play, and hopefully the device will be what people want. It might actually.
Says.
What was that?
It will be devices, but yes.
Devices, yeah. But the Nokia device. I'm talking about the 8 whatever we get. Whatever version of whatever they have currently. I think
it's fair to say that Verizon is going to get a Nokia device. That it will happen in the first half of next year.
Yeah, that could change a lot of things. I mean, that could really change it.
Yeah, it depends on which one it is and what the timing is. I would suffice to say they'll be late, and that bugs me. Verizon's on its own schedule, but they were late with V1 and they're going to be late with V2. I mean, that's the only way to say it. So.
Yeah. So good pick though. I mean, considering where they're at, it is a good thing to wish for. One on mine, the third thing that I have on my wish list is a major competitor to the iPad.
Yeah.
I really, really want this to happen. And I know there's a lot of tablets on the market, and this could be debated on what's a competitor and what's not. But honestly, in my opinion, I don't think anything is competing with it currently. I think they're all in this category, which is the tablet category, which is a baloney category in my opinion, because none of them work the way they're supposed to, except for the iPad. But I think in the coming months, with Ice Cream Sandwich and how well it's doing, I think we'll start seeing better devices with that. Also, with Windows 8 on its way, we're going to start seeing some really, really interesting tablets on the market, which could potentially take a giant chunk out of the market share that the iPad has.
I think for like a 1-to-1 iPad competitor, what you need is Google to come into the market with a Google branded tablet.
Google branded tablet. Yeah, not a Samsung or HTC, a Google
not
tablet.
Not a Motorola Xi, whatever.
Sure, yeah.
Zoom, whatever they call it. But an actual, maybe they call it a Google Nexus tab or whatever. Who cares? Something like that. I look at the Samsung tablets. They have 7, I think 9, 10 different
They have
sizes.
46 tablets on the market, Paul.
Excellent. And every one of them sells like 43, 44 copies,
Yeah.
But I think a company like Samsung is never going to do it. And it doesn't have to do with the quality of the devices. I'm sure they're great. It's just that they don't have all the end-to-end stuff there. They have to partner with people, and it gets, for the services and everything, it gets messy. I think that Google would send a big message by getting into this market. And I think it's possible too that Amazon, not in addition to just improving the Fire that they have and coming up with another version of it, will come up with one that is 10 inches as well.
I just went to Samsung's website, and when you go to the tablet category, it says view all 13. See, this is a big problem.
It's stupid.
Way
They're
too
throwing
many.
spaghetti at the wall.
Yeah, it's way too many, and I don't know if Google could do it, honestly, and I hope that they do for competition's sake, and we're extremely and we've been critical of Android, and we've gotten some awful emails for that, but I honestly think they did it right with this.
Remember the conversation we just had about Chrome and how bad it was?
Yeah.
Now imagine if they did that with Android, right? That if their tablet had a keyboard and they had the offline mode for all of their online services like Gmail and Google Docs and everything, and it would basically be something that could be used as a tablet, like the iPad, or it could be used as a laptop of sorts with a keyboard, like Windows, computers are today, or like Chromebook is. That to me is a lot more interesting, and I think would be more interesting to other people too, because that's the thing that we sort of hope for with Windows 8. If Windows 8 is as good as it can be, it could function as a replacement for an iPad, but also offer the full power of Windows and that full computing experience with word processing and all that stuff. And Google is maybe the one other company in this equation that could make that happen. So it could happen.
But Windows will be the major thing. I mean, Windows coming out on the tablet, Windows 8 being on the tablet.
Well,
I think that'll be a major competitor because it's kind of organized when you compare it to what Google is.
So the only issue there is you mentioned before that there were no direct competitors to the iPad today, and it's true.
Today.
So in other words, people may go into a shopping experience and say, I want to buy some kind of a tablet, and they'll look at the Amazon Fire, the Kindle Fire, they'll look at the iPad, and they'll buy one or the other. They're not direct competitors for various reasons. I get that. But I feel like, if Windows 8 is not done the right way, Windows 8 may be sort of an iPad competitor, but not be a direct iPad competitor too. It may be the same thing. Like someone may decide to go with a Windows 8 tablet or go with an iPad. Maybe those will be the choices, even though those two things are not directly analogous.
Yeah, the stars kind of have to align to have a tablet kind of work, right? I mean, you don't only need decent software, which I don't think any of them are doing. I think the iPad is doing it properly because it's the most simplistic, and I think it's something that people are familiar with. But you need a combination of really good hardware and really good software and really good battery life.
And integration across a lot of things. I do this a lot. Before the show, I went up and I shaved and I took a shower, and I'm watching a Windows Phone developer series of videos on the iPad, which is kind of ironic or whatever, but I am. And I can play it, I'll put it up on a shelf, and I can play the video. It's playing the content off of my computer from iTunes down in my office because they have that integration. I don't do this, but I could walk into my den and be playing the video and blast it to my Apple TV and start playing it there. There's that kind of integration. They have integration with their online services like iCloud, which is great, and iTunes Match, which is also fantastic. They offer that exchange-style email and calendar and contact support and all that stuff. Apple's got the big picture. You're not buying a device. You're buying into this ecosystem, and that's the biggest advantage that they have, and that's what's going to be hard for other people to duplicate, and that's why I think Google is one of the only companies. And Amazon gets in there, Microsoft gets in there, but once you get beyond those guys, Samsung can't do it.
Yeah. We'll see what happens with that, but that's my wish list. And it kind of goes into your number 3 pick.
For the wish list.
For the wish list.
Yes. Okay, right. So my number 3 wish is that Microsoft will do the right thing with Windows 8, meaning that with the ARM-based versions of Windows 8, they will exclude the desktop, exclude desktop apps, make it a pure play tablet, and go after the iPad directly. That's how they'll do that. They'll split the market up and say, look, we have real computers over here, the trucks, and we have these iPad-like ARM-based versions of Windows 8 like cars, and let those two things go at it.
But what will they call it? What are they going to call it?
I cannot help you there. I don't know.
Windows 8 Lite Edition.
Exactly, which makes it seem, functionally retarded, which you want to be careful about.
Then we'll have Windows 8 Lite Edition Pro and Windows 8 Lite Edition Ultimate. And an Enterprise, of course.
Yeah. I'm not going to, look, I'm not going to sit here and say, like, if they do that, I quit. I don't mean it like that, but let's just say there's some precedent for that.
But see, this is where the problem is going to be with that.
Yeah.
The fact that people are going to make netbooks and computers with the ARM chipset, and they're going to have Windows 8. And if there are these limitations, it's going to be very confusing for many people.
Except for one thing, people are a little more resilient than maybe the marketers thought. And they're able to do something like use a Windows PC at work, use an iPad at home, and use an Android phone when they're out in the world. And even though those 3 things are completely different and incompatible and don't necessarily integrate as well as they could, they're okay with it. That works for a lot of people. So it may be the case with Windows 8 that these ARM-based versions come and they only run these new Metro-style apps, but because there are enough of them and the quality is good and all the right apps are there, that people just don't care. We'll see.
Yeah, I want to remind everybody that's in our chat room or that are watching us. We're on Ustream, Justin TV, Stickam. We're all over the place. If you go to gfqlive.tv, we have our official IRC chat room there. About 80 people in the chat. A lot of people coming in. So if you want to chat and you want to give us your ideas, go to gfqlive.tv and chat with us there. this is the ARM thing. It's also on my wish list, on my predictions. But my next pick is that we're going to start seeing more of these detachable netbook laptop combinations this year. And I don't know if it'll be done properly. It might be done in an awful way where it doesn't work, because we've seen it already. I think Asus has the Transformer Prime.
By the way, there are far more of these things in the market right now than people, I think, may even realize.
Yeah, but they're not
always Android tablets.
But they're not working great.
No. No. But again, Google as the platform maker needs to establish a standard for this. And I don't know, maybe they have. But I wish there was for example, we talked about this. You can add a keyboard to an iPad, and that lets you type, and that's neat. But what you can't do on that keyboard is something like Alt-Tab, so you can go between applications, let alone run two applications side by side. These features don't exist. For Android to be taken seriously as a productivity device, that type of stuff has to be part of the system. And by the way, like I said, maybe it is. I don't know. In Android 4, I really don't know. I mean, this is something I'll be looking at soon, but I'm curious about this, because this is an opportunity for Android, I think, to make a play for that market, which is now controlled by Windows, right? We've talked before about how the computing market of the future could be very different, where there are these different players, different platforms and everything. But that's like tablets and stuff. Like, what if that stuff just became good enough, even at work, and people could use Android-based devices with their online services to get work done?
Yeah, but do you think Android could compete with Windows in this market? I mean, it's not really a desktop OS environment.
I firmly believe that.
Okay, that's interesting. I didn't know that you felt that way about it.
I love Android, Andrew. You know that. Yeah. No, I just wrote an editorial about this topic, but it is coincidental, perhaps, but notable regardless, that in the early days of Windows, versions 1, 2, and 3, I hated Windows. I hated Microsoft. I was not impressed by anything these people did. I thought it was a horrible copy of something that was better. I begrudged them their success. And that is exactly the way I felt about Android. But starting with version 4, which for Windows was Windows 95, I saw the germ of something wonderful occurring there, where they weren't just ripping off everything. They were doing some neat stuff of their own. And that was the time when Microsoft actually catapulted ahead of Apple as far as the design of their OS. With Android 4.0, I feel like they're in a certain place.
I'm at Asus's website. I'm at their website for the Prime, and the website is giving me the worst migraine ever. Everything, as you scroll down, everything moves.
Oh, I hate those. Yeah,
it's some flashy, weird thing going on. I don't know if Android could potentially grab any type of market share away from Windows as far as the desktop goes. I think with these these type of netbook, laptop, tablet combinations, it has to be Windows.
Does it?
I don't know. I kind of feel like it would be.
I don't know.
I would love to get a laptop that, I have the laptop, it's running Windows 8. You pop the screen at, and now it's running a tablet version of Windows 8.
Theoretically, I think I would as well. I need to see it. I can tell you that right now.
Theoretically, Paul, if that device came out, let's say the end of the year, and
end of next year,
end of 2012.
I mean, a lot of life is going to occur before the end of next year. You know what I'm saying?
Nothing is happening.
I'm concerned.
Actually. Nothing is going to happen
about the schedule.
Yeah, well, that's on my predictions list. But let's say they stick to the schedule and we get these devices.
Okay.
And they put out an 11-inch or an 11-inch device. Netbook.
Well, okay. By the way, I can tell you they promised a range of devices.
I know. Yeah.
7 all the way up.
And this device is done perfectly.
Yep.
I mean, in what and I'm sure many of the chatters, the 80+ people in the chat room.
In other words, a MacBook Air.
A MacBook Air
is the laptop. Sure. Is the tablet. And
you take the screen off.
Yep.
Now you're running it. Everything syncs. Everything is one device. Everything is unified. That could be the device of the year, and that could really be, wow, this is where we're going.
I agree.
Leading into 2013, this is what the device is going to be.
Google just came out with Android 4. it will come out with some kind of a tablet based on Android 4 within 6 months, certainly, but probably within 3 months. Android 5 will occur sometime late next year. iOS 6 will occur before sometime late next year. You know, the world doesn't stand still. I mean, I agree with you, but the problem is, in the interim, people who manage IT systems are having better than expected experiences with iOS devices and with Android devices, and will become more and more inclined over time
Yeah.
to allow these things into their operations in bigger and bigger numbers. There are also, some simplicity arguments to be made. If your job is to do X number of things and you can accomplish those X number of things on a very simple device, why wouldn't you buy a really simple device instead of a computer?
Well, that's the thing. Do we want a simple device, or do we still want to?
I think there's there's room for all of those things. I think that's the computing world of the future. It's more heterogeneous, but
Yeah.
I think that Windows is part of it. The question is going to be how big of a part of it is, and again, every day that goes by, Windows 7 is great for PCs. It's great. I don't mean there's nothing wrong with it, but it is perhaps the apex of personal computing on a traditional desktop computer.
Mm-hmm.
Those things are kind of going away. I don't mean completely, but they're not going to be the majority.
No, I don't think they are going to be the majority. And when you see so many people go into the iPad and they say, wow, this is it. Oh, wow, look how great this is. I don't need a computer. I cannot tell you, and I've mocked this for many years since the iPad came out. The last 2 years, and I've said I can't see how anybody would use this as their everyday computer. And guess what? I was so wrong. A lot of people are using this as their everyday computer, and this device has taken over for them. There's no need for a laptop. There's no need for so as Chapman has said, full productivity suites. People don't need that. A lot of people don't. And it's surprising to me that they don't. They're happy typing on glass.
Yep. Because they don't type.
They don't type. They're writing, 3-word emails and sending pictures of their grandkids. And I guess
and this is the thing, the fundamental misunderstanding I have with the Apple advocate types is that, I don't think they understand that the things they feel so passionately about are all going away. That this market that they love so much, these products they love so much, are not for them anymore. They're for normal people. They're for like a mass market, and we try to meld our wants and our needs onto these devices. But the thing is, like, I have specific needs. I can't get work done on an iPad. I'm sorry. It's probably never going to happen, or possibly never going to happen. But it's not going to happen today.
Yeah. And how do you keep everybody happy?
I'm not a normal person. I do something very specific.
Listen, anything can happen. The next 5 years is going to be very interesting in the development of Windows and where Windows is going. And obviously, Apple's going to go into this iOS, Mac OS integration, right? It's going to become this one unified operating system. I mean, that's obviously where it's going. There are many people that might jump ship and say, I don't want to deal with any of this. I'm going back to Linux. It could happen.
I don't think so.
It could happen.
That's crazy talk.
You know what? What's today? The 27th.
Other than the fact that, of course, Android is Linux.
Yeah, other than the fact that but Android is still simple. I'm talking about, complex Windows 98 style environment, because that's where Linux is right now.
It would be a scary thing to do, and I've thought about this recently. You could probably load up, assuming you could get online and do stuff, which you probably couldn't, but if you could use the equivalent of Windows 95 as a desktop OS and use the equivalent of Microsoft Office as it existed in 1995, I bet 99.9% of people could just get stuff done. I bet it would work fine.
It would work.
But that's a problem, isn't it?
Yeah,
because
sure.
It's it was like 16 years ago.
You know what's interesting? You said it was version 4, right? It was Windows version 4, pretty much. Windows 95. This might be Android's version Windows 95 at this point. I think
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think they got the direction. Now,
right.
what they
do with this?
they
found their voice, is how I would say.
Yeah.
Before, they were very much guided by what had occurred before, and that makes a certain amount of sense. But I think it's years down the road now. They've had a lot of experience with how these systems work and where things work and where they don't work, and and maybe now we're finally seeing a Google stamp of some kind on it. I mean, I don't want to give them too much credit. There's stuff in there that to me looks like Windows Phone, and certainly they're stealing from the best in some ways. But I think what we're starting to see is that thing that Microsoft did, which was that they eventually kind of went off and did their own thing.
Yeah. Paul, what is your pick? What is your? I think we're at number 4, right?
Wishlist.
Wishlist number 4.
Yeah, this was kind of a late edition. I just finished up my review of that dashboard update for the Xbox 360.
Okay.
There's a lot of great TV and entertainment services that are available now on the Xbox 360. There's more coming. The availability of these things varies depending on where you live and all that kind of stuff. But it really is an impressive array of stuff. There's just one problem. In order to access any of it, you have to pay for Xbox Live Gold, which costs $60 a year. You can get it for less, but let's say $50, $60 a year. The problem I have with that is that many of these services are already paid services. So, for example, if I wanted to watch Hulu Plus, I would have to pay Hulu $7.99 a month or whatever their fee is, plus the $9.99 or whatever I'm paying Microsoft. And then, by the way, on top of that, I still have to put up with advertising. And that to me is tragic and wrong. I already pay for Netflix. The Xbox 360 is the only device I'm aware of where I have to pay an additional monthly fee or yearly fee to access Netflix on that device. It's free on the Apple TV. It's free on the Roku device. It's free on my PC or Mac. It's free on the iPad, etc. I just, and just from a gaming perspective, there is no other example of a paid general video gaming service like this.
Yeah, like this. No,
you don't pay for the PlayStation Network. You don't pay for Steam. By the way, you don't pay for Xbox Live on the PC. They call it well, actually now they call it Xbox Live, but they used to call it Games for Windows or Games for Windows Live. There was no fee for that. You only paid on the Xbox. I mean, it's crazy to me that this is the case.
How do you think they should do the structure? Do you think they should just open it up for everybody or have extra perks?
Last year, they raised the price on Xbox Live. That's amazing to me. I kind of grew up in a world or grew up with an understanding that as things get paid for and as R&D gets paid off, you lower the price on things. I think that Xbox Live Gold should be free. I think it should be discontinued. I think it should just be Xbox Live and that this stuff is free. That this is a service, a benefit of owning an Xbox 360 console. it is inexcusable to me. And by the way, they did this beautiful dashboard update. There are advertisements all over the
Oh, there
thing.
are. I know, and I noticed that.
I don't understand why this is okay. And this is going to be a tough issue for some people because the Xbox is that one Microsoft product that people love unreservedly, like an Apple product. It's the only one that Microsoft ever made that's like that.
And from day one, that thing came, well, except for the criticism before it came out, but the device came out, people said, wow, this is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And they stuck
I love
with
it. I use it every day. I love the Xbox. But, this is the wrong direction. This is wrong. I know they're never going to change it. I know that I'm just blowing into the wind, but I'll just throw it out there. I wish, because it's a wish list, I wish they would stop charging us for this stuff. It doesn't make sense.
But then you could also, go to the other side. Well, look how awful the PS3 gaming experience is online.
Yeah, but I could also say, look, I've been paying for this thing for years, and you've been building up the service. Now you have all these partners. I don't understand why you need money from me anymore. I'm already, if your thing is so popular, these services should be happy to be on board.
Yeah,
I don't understand it. So,
and that is a very interesting thing to want. Most people, I don't think they thought of that. So I didn't put down a number 5.
Okay.
Because I forgot.
You forgot.
I forgot. But I was thinking about what I would want to see this year. And obviously, one thing I would like to see is cheap, competitive devices that really are at the level where the MacBook is as far as the structure, the look, the feel. So these ultrabook devices, I really hope they take off. Right. That's kind of on my wish list, and I would like to have a a device that really is competitive like that, because when you compare the MacBook Air, it's a beautiful device, and up until recently it was slow and it was criticized for that, but these things are extremely competitive now.
Yeah.
With the new hardware they have, they're running i7s. I mean, you can't really get better than that. I really hope that HP and all the other manufacturers really catch on and understand how to market this thing and how to sell this thing.
All right.
I don't know if they will.
So little precedent for that, but
I know, and I'm really scared that they're going to screw it up, because I think this year we got a glimpse at CES last year of all the ultrabooks, and they were talking about, they're coming. They didn't come until now, but I think this year it'll be really concentrated on that, and I really hope that they start putting out devices that are really nice looking but affordable. I'm not talking about $1,800 devices.
Yes. Oh, no, right. The majority of these devices have to cost under $1,000. Hopefully, well under $1,000. Hopefully, there'll be a range. They should have the cute plastic pop-up covers for the people that want the colored, different colors according to their mood and all that. And they should have the really professional ones. There should be 15-inch versions of these things. How wonderful would it be to have a huge, huge screen in a very, very thin device, where all of a sudden you can open up the kind of width and height, but not the thickness, because, it's an Ultrabook class computer, but you can have that full computing experience. Hopefully, certainly this will happen. I guess it's just a question of the level of the quality and what the price range is going to be. But,
yeah, you know what I fear? Like Lenovo putting out, and I know Lenovo makes some nice stuff, but Lenovo putting out like a plasticky, ultra thin device, and like, look how light this thing is, and it's all plastic.
So I can tell you with confidence that is not going to happen.
Okay.
So in Lenovo.
How about Dell?
Dell, no promises.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Dell did provide us that wonderful device, the Duo.
Yes.
So we never know what could happen, but that was my fifth pick. And
they did get one thing right, and it's hard to remember this, but if you're familiar with the back of that Kindle Fire, where it's got the grippy kind of back, which is awesome, by the way. The Duo had that too. That was like maybe the one thing that they got right on that machine.
What's your fifth pick, Paul?
This is more of this is Wishlist still, right? Yeah, the kind of a continuation of a theme, but it's like the continuing death spiral of physical media. It's as I wrote in the notes, it's more of like a goal or almost like a New Year's resolution of sorts, but just a furthering of the elimination of physical stuff. We get really, I think, bogged down in some ways with our sort of hoarding habits. I want these things, I want every disc in the James Bond series. Now I need it on Blu-ray,
Yeah.
That I really do think that cloud computing, and I know not everyone has, the bandwidth that's needed and the cheap bandwidth that's needed yet, but it's sort of a future thing that I wish that we would, and that our content could follow us around. No
so you want it to go away?
I want the physical media to go away.
That's interesting. Okay.
I talked about how, remember I said, when you log on to the Xbox 360, it knows that I'm a Fios customer somehow, and I get access to the Fios app. I should be able to access that Fios app on an iPad or a Windows 8 computer a year from now, and it will know that I'm me, and and I am paying Fios for Fios. So even though I'm on a business trip in Las Vegas, I could access my DVR in the cloud and watch the recorded TV show that's sitting on a server up in the cloud somewhere. That's the death of physical media. It should be not passing around stuff. Less stuff, I guess.
Already, I'm noticing a lot of these lower end devices not have optical drives, so I guess it is on its way out. I mean, you get a netbook; they don't have optical drives,
right?
So
which is fantastic,
which is great, and they kind of have to. But it gets even
contributes to the thinness and the lightness and all that, but it also contributes to sort of a reliability / noise / just elegance component to the machine, where it's like one less thing that has to be pulled, and you get the little drive, is there anything in there, and you just get rid of all that junk. It's just another stupid artifact of the past, like a floppy drive. Just get rid of it. It makes the whole thing better.
Yeah. Now on to our prediction portion of the show, and we'll fly through this because we're almost approaching the end, but I guess we'll do a little extended show today. So this is my prediction. First one is Windows 8 will not be released during the summer. I do not think we're going to get these ARM tablet devices that people are saying we're going to get at the end of the summer or early September. I think we're going to get them around the Christmas season.
I think you're probably right.
Because a lot, what I have heard and read is that we're going to get the Windows 8 desktop version out after the tablet version.
Yeah, that's a rumor. I don't know that I'd heard that from any sources that I'm, that I trust or know personally. But I did a little spiel for my publishing company. They were curious about the potential release schedule for Windows 8, and what I told them was that there was kind of a minimum and then a maximum. Worst case and best case, or vice versa, and that the truth was probably somewhere in the middle. The best case scenario, without going through the details of how this could happen, but it kind of boils down to how long it takes Microsoft to get to different milestones, and given the schedule as we know it, what could happen. So we know that there were a certain number of months between the beta and what will be between the developer preview and what will be the beta. If you stretch that out to RC to RTM to general availability, you arrive at something that's pretty damn ugly, by the way.
Yeah.
It's called January 2013.
Yeah.
That's the worst case scenario, I think. I don't think that's going to happen, but I think we need to leave that in there as a potential possibility.
Well, the beta's out in February, right?
Yeah. So next January, the following January is the worst possible case for general availability of Windows 8.
Now, do you know if the beta is going to be open just like how they had the Windows 7 beta open?
Yeah, it is.
Because I know they released the preview version first. I don't know if they're going to release the other one.
Yeah, they will. They'll release, the beta and the release candidate too, I would imagine, will be publicly available. So the best case scenario would be end of July, early August, that kind of thing. I had heard at one time that Microsoft was shooting for late August general availability.
Yeah, and I mean that's really fast for like an overhaul like this.
It's really fast, period.
I mean, and it's a little alarming to me.
There's one rumor that it's one of those things that falls into the category of things. There are two aspects to it. One, it sounds plausible, so you immediately sort of want to just nod your head and say, yeah, that could happen. And then it's also something I would kind of like to see happen, which would be hardware makers could introduce Windows 7 tablets at CES, release them within the next couple of months, and provide in the box a coupon where you would get a free copy of Windows 8 when that became available. Mm-hmm. And it would allow people to buy a tablet a little bit early.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things, it sounds plausible. I think if I were going to get, and I don't have any inside information on whether that's going to happen or not, so if I were going to bet money on it, honestly, I mean, thinking clearly, I would say that sounds kind of stupid, doesn't it? I don't think that's what's going to happen, but it's kind of cool. It's kind of a cool idea.
And then we'll all have Windows 8 house parties like 2 years ago.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't see it happening. But.
My second prediction, what we'll do, we'll go through mine and then we'll go through yours.
Okay.
My second prediction is iPhone 5 major revamp in hardware and software. I think we're going to see a major change in the software. And the reason why we all expect a major change in the hardware with the iPhone 5, we all know that there's going to be a major change, but the software, we really have not heard much about it. We haven't seen much about it. And they kind of have to do this because last week we were talking about it where the iPhone is considering every other mobile operating system. Windows Phone is really doing something outside of the box. They're doing the tile aspect of it, and it's a new looking operating system. Android has really cleaned up its act, and it's looking almost futuristic in a way. It doesn't look like this crappy operating system, while iOS is kind of falling behind as far as the look of the UI. It's a very plain, simple look, and it's kind of getting dated. So they kind of have to change and keep up with these other guys.
See, I agree that they should.
You don't think they will?
I don't think they will.
Okay.
I think there are many reasons for it. I think that they have a huge established base of devices and people who are used to using the software in a certain way. And I think it would be difficult to move people like that forward to these new versions. Apple's very aggressive cutting people off, so an iPhone 5 with an iOS 6, maybe it's only iPhone 4S and newer gets the new software or something. I mean, they could do that. Certainly.
Oh, I don't think anybody's going to get the new software.
Except for the new people.
Except for the new people, yeah.
Okay, because it would require a bigger screen and.
Yeah. I think
Whatever.
they're gonna totally revamp it because they kind of, I mean, it's the same look since 2007.
Yeah, but the thing is, when the iPhone first came out, it was revolutionary, and now it's really it's safe. And I don't mean that in a critical way at all. I mean it's like it's the obvious choice for so many people, and it's tough to mess with that. Google, or rather Apple, has also really stretched out their development process, both first with the desktop OS,
Yeah.
Mac OS 10, and now with iOS. I mean, they're not churning it as fast. They don't have to. Well, I mean, you're saying they do have to, and actually, I agree with you. I think it's dated as well. I'm just thinking from their perspective, and just kind of knowing how they work and how they do things. I would be surprised if they did the complete overhaul that you're looking for. I would love to see it, but I'd be surprised by it.
I guess we'll start getting glimpses in the coming months because if an iPhone 5 is coming out next September, let's say,
Yeah.
they have some time to kind of develop it, and it would go hand in hand with the not the iPad 3, because I don't think the iPad 3 is going to be a major change, with the next generation iPad, where it kind of goes into it and then leads into the next generation of Mac OS X, whatever they.
I don't know why Apple calls a lot of iPad apps HD. They allow people to use that term. So there could be a version of a game that runs on an iPhone that's name of game, and then the iPad version is name of game HD, even though the iPhone 4 and 4S have a very, very high resolution. It's almost, exactly the same as the iPad. If Apple comes through with a Retina display for the iPad, that's the thing that they could have, that should have been the HD designation. And I think that would be enough for the iPad 3, Retina display, I think would do it.
Yeah. My next pick is that, and my next prediction, which this is
insanity.
This is insanity, yeah. Many companies will ditch Android and go with WebOS. Now that WebOS is open source and it's open to everybody to use, I think a lot of these companies are going to ditch Android and they're going to start developing for WebOS. And I'm not saying the major companies. I'm not saying higher end. I don't think Motorola is going to start developing for WebOS. I think what's going to happen is that you're going to have a lot of these ABC tablet companies starting to use WebOS.
I don't know how I feel about this one. I mean, I would like to see that happen, I guess, it's kind of a tough one. I mean, in some ways you want to see the market consolidate around some set of platforms that makes sense. If you can think of the way that the personal computing market was in the early 1980s, there was an Apple II and a Mac and a Lisa. There was a Commodore, VIC-20 and a 64 and a PET. There was a Tandy whatever. There was a TI whatever, a Coleco whatever, Atari whatever. There was all this stuff, and this stuff has to consolidate down at some point. So it's almost like what you're suggesting is that the market of viable mobile OSs will expand next year.
Yeah, and my logic to this is and this is my crazy logic to this. There's so many Android phones on the market right now.
Yeah.
And there are some, obviously we're going to start seeing some really higher end Android tablets that make sense and people are going to want to buy.
Yeah.
But what happens to all these companies still using, version 2.3 and version that just going to Honeycomb? They need to separate themselves from them, and they're never going to get the attention. They're never going to sell as much because they're falling behind the big ads by Samsung and everybody else. So why not take a different route and offer something different?
But I wonder if that fragmentation is a problem for the device makers or just a problem for the consumers. In other words, from the perspective of XYZ company who's selling you generic Android tablet 2012, maybe they don't really care that this thing can be or they don't want it to be upgraded. They don't want you to get new capabilities. They want you to buy another device.
Let's see what else I have here. ARM netbook laptops will be a big seller for Christmas 2012.
ARM netbooks and laptops.
Yeah.
And so are you saying, is this Windows 8?
Lower end Windows 8 devices will be a big seller.
Okay, so in other words, not tablets, but actual.
Not tablets. Yeah, I'm talking about actual netbooks or laptop, whatever you want to call it, an 11-inch ARM device.
Okay, so why would somebody buy an ARM tablet? I'm
Because
sorry, an ARM laptop over like an x86 laptop.
because I think that's going to take over the netbook market. I think we're going to see this boom in the netbook market because of these chipsets, and they're going to be cheap. You're going to start seeing these $199, $299 devices, and
You think they'll have better battery life?
no, I think
No?
I think they're still going to be awful. I think people are going to buy it and they're going to realize how awful this experience is.
That's too bad.
But I think that they're gonna sell a lot of them, and then we'll forget about the ARM netbook in 2013.
Wow. Okay.
So-
Mary Jo Foley asks about this category of device a lot, and I don't know anything about it. I know that there will be these things. I mean, there'll be little ARM set-top box type machines,
Yeah.
that run Windows 8, and you can stick one in the den, or you could use it as a low-price PC for your kids or something. I'm sure, but I don't have a handle on.
But do we need that?
No, we don't need any of this stuff. But I just
but
don't
what
know.
price are we talking about? And this is the thing: are we talking about a $99 device that works?
Well, then it
Because
gets
if that's
really
the
interesting,
case,
right? How's your $99, fully functioning Windows 8 computer doing?
yeah.
That's it. That's interesting.
So are we? Well, there's different ideas here. If you take an ARM $99 desktop, a tiny little device,
Yeah.
and it's intended to connect to your TV,
Mhm.
and it's running whatever version of Windows, and you connect, you put your Connect to it, you connect your Connect to it, Paul.
Yeah.
See what I did there?
Yeah.
It might be something interesting. It's $100. You have the Connect because you have the Xbox, and it integrates it in the thing, and everybody's moving their arms around like they're trying to get someone's attention, and it might work. It might be this media center type device. Or are you talking about a $399 device?
Yeah. I think it's going to be that range.
I think it's going to be $399, and I think they're going to fail.
Well, I mean, maybe to start, but
I think they'll sell,
ARM
and then
stuff has to come down over time. I don't know. I just don't get the value proposition. I'm curious.
by the way, I have a netbook here. I have a Lenovo, and this is what I use to monitor the chat room. People ask me what do I do and how do I see the chat. This is what I use.
Yep.
This is the biggest piece of garbage I've ever spent money on, and I've spent money on stupid stuff.
Yeah.
This is probably the worst thing I ever bought because it's useless to me, other than just watching a chat room. I mean, it's absolutely
It's like a dumb terminal with a little gerbil on a wheel.
I would be better with that, actually, and I would have spent for a gerbil on a wheel. I would have spent $399. To me, the netbooks don't work, and you may say because it's a single core processor, whatever the case may be, but most people do not comprehend that. Well, I paid less, so it's not going to work as much. It's not going to work as well as something I paid $1,000 for.
Yeah.
I don't think you could convince the consumer that this is a lower end chipset, so the chipset's not going to be as good as what you have, and the display isn't as good as what you have. It doesn't work. There's a disconnect. I think people just see a price. They go, "Ooh, look how cheap it is. I'm going to buy this," and then they go home, and in 6 months they're like, "Well, this doesn't really work the way I want it to work."
I think that you just described most people's relationships with technology.
Yeah.
So,
My fifth pick, Paul.
It's
another crazy one.
Yes,
Ultrabooks will not capture the market like many people are reporting. I don't think Ultrabooks are going to be done properly. I think they're going to mess it up tremendously. They're going to be iPad. This whole i thing is messing me up.
Yeah, you mean
they're going to be MacBook Air clones, and people are going to call them MacBook Air clones, and they're not going to pick up the market that they hope to pick up.
I think you are certifiably insane.
Okay,
and we need to talk about this.
Okay, so what's your point on? Do you think they're gonna capture the market, and this is gonna be like, oh my god, this is revived PC?
I think this is going to be the market for traditional computers. Yeah, I think Ultrabooks are going to be the biggest part of the market.
See, I hope they are, and I think it'll work if they say, you know what, this is our line.
It's going to be a range of stuff. There are going to be companies like Lenovo who get it right. And there are going to be companies like HP and Dell who sometimes get it right and sometimes don't, But ultimately, we're going to end up with, yes, there will be absolutely machines that look identical to a MacBook Air because, God, we can't stop doing stuff like that. But there will be companies, that innovate and do different things as well. They're going to be really thin, really light. And I really do think that the future of the Ultrabook is that thing where the computer is in the screen and it becomes a pop-up tablet. And that will jettison these things yet again to another future that will be more important with Windows 8. That's going to be something we see with Windows 8.
I think in 2013 they'll get it.
Okay.
I think this year they'll be pushing out clones, but I'm not saying that the market is going to collapse and we're not going to see it. But I think in 2013 we'll see it.
Last year when they announced Ultrabooks and everyone was talking about Ultrabooks at CES, we knew that, and by the way, Intel was actually very explicit about this. They said, look, we have 3 chipset revisions to come that are going to make this happen over time. The first one comes this fall. And that's what we see today. So if you were to buy an Ultrabook today, it's essentially a modified, I don't know what they call it, but it's a Sandy Bridge based chipset. It's kind of Sandy Bridge is itself a second gen chipset, but it's like the second gen of Sandy Bridge essentially. The next version is Ivy Bridge, right? And that's what's coming out in the very early part of 2012. The difference between this year and next year is that next generation chipset, which is going to be very important to Ultrabooks, is happening much closer to the announcement than did this Sandy Bridge thing that happened this year. In other words, they announced it in January. We got a piddling number of them in November, December. They're going to announce again in January, but now it's going to be February, March, April.
Yeah.
That's how it's going to happen. It's going to be much quicker, and there's going to be a much bigger chunk of the year where we have many Ultrabooks to choose from, not just the 2 or 3 that you see in the market today. So I think it's going to be a big deal.
All right, Paul, time for your predictions.
All right, I'll try to blow.
Do you have a nutty one like mine?
Let me look.
Yeah, your last one is crazy, Paul. I do not agree with that.
No, that's the best one. So I think that actually the first one's probably the craziest one. I think Apple is this coming year, will announce its plans to merge iOS and macOS 10 with the eventual goal of eliminating macOS 10, and that they'll handle it just like they handled their transition from classic Mac to macOS 10 or their transition from PowerPC to x86. It will happen very efficiently.
So what do you think this operating system will look like? What do you think it'll resemble?
Well, I actually think it's going to resemble iOS more than macOS 10, and that it will involve bringing the rest of the I don't know, the Cocoa or kind of traditional Mac OS capabilities that make sense to iOS. Mouse and keyboard support and that kind
of stuff. Do you think it's going to work? Do you think the majority is going to?
Here's why I think it's going to work, because essentially what you're talking about, if this, is in this mythical future I've envisioned, is that there will always be this iOS that works on the devices that's pure and simple and whatever. But this other thing is like a superset of that. And that will only be used on their computers, the MacBook Airs essentially and iMacs, whatever devices they continue forward with. And that it will have these additional capabilities. I sort of envision this thing where you could run, traditional touch-based iOS apps in a window, perhaps floating with your other, applications, and you could have all these different things going on, and we'll see. But it's clear that Apple's simplicity initiative that you see in iOS is the right thing, and it makes more sense for more people. There'll always be people who hate this,
Yeah, I'm kind of frightened for this desktop. The future of desktop computing, because who knows what's going to happen? It might become so simple where, it just.
Well, I just made this up, so it may not ever happen. So
no, I mean no,
it's just
no. But it's something that seems like it's going to happen.
Yeah, there's some precedent for it, and we'll see. The other way to go, I guess, would be they continue the co-development of both OSs as separate entities, and they bring more and more things into both from the other. I guess they could do that, but that's kind of a non-starter over a long period of time. I mean, they could probably do one more release of each where they do a little bit of that, but I think after that you got to look at the way the market's going and pick the winner. I mean, clearly, iOS is a much bigger deal than macOS 10. It's not even close.
Yeah. What's the next pick?
I don't know how it's going to happen exactly, but I believe that RIM next year will collapse and will cease to exist as we know it today. And by that I mean there are all kinds of different ways that could happen.
By the end of the year.
By this time next year, RIM,
they're done
as a viable entity will, and an independent viable entity will cease to exist.
I give them another 2 years.
Okay, I think they're dead. Okay. I think this is going to happen really quick.
And Microsoft is buying them, right?
all kinds of things. A sale or a merger to another company absolutely is possible. Massive market share losses next year. I think their CEO, their co-CEOs, who are possibly the biggest boobs in
which,
technology.
by the way, that is one of the worst things you could ever do in a
I want to set up a situation where we can never make a decision. How might we do that? Yeah, let's have co-CEOs. So I just think they're inept. They were the right guys for 10 years ago. They're the wrong guys for today. Unfortunately, they're the guys calling the shots, so they don't see that. They're going to drive this company into the ground. So I think RIM, next year is it for RIM. Number 3, I think Microsoft next year will announce, but not release, the next generation version of the Xbox 360.
I hope, please do not call it the 720.
I know for a fact it will not be called the Xbox 720.
Okay.
I don't know why people continue to write that. Like, yeah, I get it. 360 times 2. You know, it's not going to be called that.
Yeah,
It's not. So we can just
well, the hardware. I mean, we're talking about something that the hardware is almost going to be 10 years, 5 or 6 years old at this point.
In the new one.
Yeah, I'm talking about the 360. I mean, it's an
it's
old hardware. I mean, and this thing is chugging along and it's working quite well. And we see how it's pushing out HD video and HD streaming.
Well, but the thing is, you know, look what else has changed, right? In 2005, if you bought an Xbox 360 and you put it in your den, and this thing at the time could basically do 720p video, and you could put a video up on your screen, you say, wow, that's really impressive. Today, you have a device that is fanless, that makes no sound at all. It's the size and shape and color of a hockey puck.
Yeah.
And you connect an HDMI cable to it, and it puts 720p video on your TV, and you think nothing of it.
Okay, so how about this? I have a question for you for this. You're talking about the death of optical. Do you feel that they're going to kill optical on the Xbox?
What is the most old-fashioned component in the Xbox 360 today? The DVD drive.
But that single-handedly kills GameStop. What are they going to do? They're going to have you download it?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it really kills the outlets.
Yep. Well,
which is very fascinating.
Sure.
That's a whole different concept right there. But
I feel less bad about the death of GameStop than I do say about the death of Borders. But yeah, absolutely. I mean,
that's very interesting. I think my prediction, I think they will announce it. I think they're going to concentrate tremendously on streaming media. Because I think this was a mistake, right? And I keep saying I think today. I don't know why. My brain's not working. They kind of fell into the streaming media and having these devices as media outlets and media providers by mistake.
On what?
On all of them. On the Xbox, on the PlayStation.
Not exactly. You know, when Microsoft got into the video game business, their goal with the first console was video games. That's it. That's all it's going to do. We just need to get into this market. They envisioned the Xbox 360 to be a different thing, and across the board, it was going to be a much more of a multifunction device. In the context of 2004, 2005, when they were making this, the notion of online services for media were not well established because it just wasn't really possible to stream HD media over the internet at the time. There was not a viable business model. So they sort of envisioned the Xbox as a component of a home network where you would play media over your network from your PC or from your.
But do people do that? Yeah.
No, they don't.
No,
so that stuff, it has evolved. You know, that's evolved. But the Xbox 360 was always designed to handle digital media effectively. And thanks to, you know, the very first Xbox, of course, was the first video game console that shipped with an Ethernet port. So it's had this kind of online thing all along. And you can combine those things, and it's very good at that. My point is just that all that hardware that's in there is overkill today for delivering HD video. We don't need that anymore. That part of the Xbox Next, whatever it's called, will be the cheapest, you know, silliest bit of it. The video game stuff is what's going to be the big deal for that. The pipe is already there. You can play HD video using a very low-end chip. That stuff is a no-brainer.
So pretty much they're saying, well, if you don't have high-speed bandwidth, sorry.
Yeah, but we're saying that with everything these days. You say that with a Roku box, with an Apple TV. You say it with the OnLive gaming service, which requires no console at all.
I would love to know what percentage of Xbox users are not connected in some way.
Yeah,
I would love to know that.
It's got to be very small. It's probably very similar to the percentage of PC users.
By the way, I have an original Xbox 360. You know, the first gen. I got it the first day that it came out.
Yep.
I don't have Wi-Fi. I have a add-on into the Ethernet port, and to get the network to work, it's this weird way you have to kind of sync it. First, you need to connect it to a computer. Then you need to, once it's connected to the computer, you only have about 15 minutes to do this. You have to take it, plug it to the Xbox, and get it to work.
Right. So the next version will have wireless, and it will have gigabit Ethernet, whatever. I mean, it's this is all, it's just there, and now this stuff's just there. So.
Yeah. Very interesting prediction, though. What's your fourth prediction?
I think that next year the iPad is going to no longer be the number one tablet in the market. I think that a combination of things, the Fire, the Barnes & Noble Nook, a Google-branded tablet, and of course Windows 8, are going to really dilute the market share in that market. In fact, if you look at the tablet market share just over the past year and a half, it's changed pretty dramatically. They obviously still dominate it, but they're heading down to this different place. And,
I mean, they're still in the 90s. They have 90-something% of the market.
I bet that's not true for December.
But really? I didn't see the latest one.
No, I don't think so. So I just think that this is going to parallel what happened to Apple before in the PC market with the Mac, where they went out to an early lead and then fell apart. And then with the iPhone, same thing, where they were so revolutionary when they came out that they were just the only game in town. Yeah. And now not so much. So I mean, clearly this kind of commoditization of the market occurs, and they fall down from number one.
Pick number 5, and then we're gonna wrap it up. But I do have a couple other things that were submitted to me by viewers on what they predict.
I'm curious to hear this.
Yeah. With your fifth pick.
Oh yeah, I'll get through this real quick. This is a prediction and a wish. It's that 3D just disappears again like it did before. Like it seems like every 20, 30 years there's like a 3D push. We had the monster movies in the 50s. We had the stupid movies in the 80s. And now we have Avatar and these 3D TVs and so forth. 3D is ridiculous, and it never really works well.
I've never gotten it. Like I feel like I'm on another planet, and I speak a totally different language than the people around me, because everybody around me is awed by it.
I want to like it.
I feel like I know something I shouldn't. No, everybody's awed by it. I know so many people and they love it.
The best experience I've ever had with 3D, possibly, was Avatar in the theater.
And it was good.
No, it was bearable.
No, it was
bearable. It didn't completely ruin the experience. It didn't take me out of the experience. 3D is not 3D. 3D is something flat here and then something flat in the front of it. It's not the same as real life. It's just not. HD is wonderful because when it's done right, you see things more clearly than you do in real life. No matter how good 3D is, it's never as good as real life. Never. It's silly. It's not the same. It's like a gross exaggeration of certain parts of real life. It's not good. I want it to go away, and I think it will next year. I think what we're going to find, by the way, is in theater 3D this year will be down dramatically from what it was last year. Dramatically. So much so that some movies that were slated to be 3D next year will not be. And it will start this trend.
That's an interesting prediction.
Just goes away.
So right now, I have a couple predictions that were sent to me by viewers, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to remind everybody, if you're on our website at gfqlive.tv, you could enter the chat room, which I think automatically by default, it sets you in there. You could change your name so it's easy for me to monitor who's saying what by clicking on menu. And I know this is I feel like this is like 1990.
Right, now follow along with me.
Like I feel like this is 1997 and I'm constantly saying www http://
Right. Did you type the www?
Yeah. Also go to our, follow me on Twitter. Shameless plug time. Follow me on Twitter at Andrewzarian and Paul at Thurrott. That bothers me, Paul. Be Paul Thurrott.
Be Paul Thurrott?
Who's Paul Thurrott?
No, I'm just at Thurrott. I'm just
at Thurrott. You're the Thurrott.
I am Thurrott.
There a bunch of people are saying their predictions in the chat, which I would love to know. But you know what people were wishing for? And this goes back to your fifth pick. People were wishing for cheaper 3D TVs and better 3D TVs. And I got 7, 8 emails over the week because we put this out earlier in the week that we're going to be doing the show. People want to see better 3D.
What does that mean, though?
No clue, but I guess they want cheaper glasses. They want better glasses. They want better 3D TVs. And I I feel like Jerry Seinfeld, and I keep saying, who are these people?
Yeah. Who are they?
I don't think anybody cares about 3D. I think, again, you're absolutely right. The death of 3D, it's going to go away, and possibly in another 10 years, they'll come up with some blah, blah, blah TV that has 3D, and it'll be a big thing. And I'm not against getting a TV that has 3D in it. Like, I don't go out of my way to buy a TV that doesn't have 3D.
Right.
If it has it, it's a bonus. It's there. I'll get it. But I'm not looking for it.
No.
Oh, I missed your bonus pick, by the way. You have a bonus prediction.
I'm being very coy here, so
Okay.
I'm gonna. I can only say this once, and then we're gonna move right on.
Okay.
We can't discuss it in any way.
Okay.
But I believe, and I know, I should say, perhaps, that Nokia has an ace in the hole coming for next year in the United States, and I think it's going to excite people.
Okay.
So you can wait for that.
Okay, and that is the new phone, the Ace in the Hole by Nokia.
I can't discuss it.
And we're not discussing it. We're just moving along. So let me see the chat here, because the chat has a lot of stuff. And they're predicting, and they're hoping, and they're seeing. Bring 4K instead of 3D. You know what? I think they should bring more HD before they go anywhere else.
Yep.
By the way, I think that's another thing. We're going to have a huge disappointment in 2012. We are not going to see a large deployment of HD channels for all the cable providers.
Yes. By the way, that is something. I should have put that in there as a wish.
Yeah, more HD channels. I know.
Get rid of standard definition, for crying out loud. Seriously,
Just
enough.
yeah.
I pay money to Fios because they have a great technology, and then a lot of the channels I watch are like standard definition. It's awful.
Scratch and sniff TVs. I think it's a great idea. Actually,
Awesome, especially for porn.
That would be awful.
Right.
That would be the end
Why didn't this take off?
Yeah, I don't know. But they have tried
like
that.
Canola oil and desperation.
You know what I do think? Somebody brought up holograms. I do think we're going to see really interesting hologram stuff in 2012.
Oh, okay. I like that.
Yeah.
I like the notion of every wall is a surface that can be projected onto from invisible devices.
Yeah.
But also this thing that you could possibly have a projection in front of you. Better yet, if it was a projection that no one else could see. That you could sit in a very cramped plane seat and see projected in front of you what amounts to a very big screen. It would be awesome. Yeah.
Let's see what else. The next iOS device will not have a physical home button. Yeah, you know what? I could see that, but I'm not a big fan of that. I do like the buttons on the actual device. This phone freaks me out that there's no home button.
Right.
It's not a physical button.
They have a software home button, right?
They have a software home button.
So you've been using that for a couple weeks now. That still bugs you?
Kinda. You know why? I'll tell you what my big problem is, and this is a huge flaw in the device. The biggest flaw of the device, in my opinion. When you're typing, right? When you're typing a text, I didn't set up the third shot, the over the shoulder shot. So when you're typing a text and you're in, you're not holding it like this, you're holding it the long way. The home button, the back button, and I guess whatever button, previous
the apps button.
Previous whatever button are right there. So if I'm typing fast,
so do you hit them by mistake?
I hit that button almost every single time, and it throws me out of my text message screen into the menu, and
that doesn't only happen on that phone. I've seen that before.
It's really bad. I mean,
it's probably worse because those are software buttons.
It's a software button. So I did it. I got an email from somebody, and I don't want to talk about it, but I got an email from somebody because I did a bunch of reviews on this, and they asked me what I think is wrong with the phone.
Yeah.
And it's someone I know personally from that place. And it wasn't like, oh, they're asking Andrew, what can you change? And I told them about this, and they said with the next release, this is a problem that they know of, and with the next release, they're going to cut the sensitivity on the buttons
when the keyboard's up.
When the keyboard's up.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because it's awful. I mean, it's really, really bad that you get kicked out of it.
I'm curious if that will fix that, but that's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. Who knows? Who knows if that'll fix it? But that is a option. We're getting more messages here, so let's just go through this. Hologram. Everybody loves the hologram stuff. Oh, you know what? What was one that I got? I think we are totally wrong with Apple TV.
It's funny you mentioned that. I almost went into an Apple TV thing. You mean the television sets?
Yes. I do not think we're going to get an Apple television in 2012.
I read the New York Times every morning, and I die a little bit as a result.
I know, me too.
But
you should go with the New York Daily News or the New York Post. Now, those are great newspapers.
So let me see if I can find this story. Yeah, so I saw a story that was in there today, and the headline says this: TV prices fall, squeezing most makers and sellers. And so here we are heading into the new year, and the price on HD TVs is plummeting. Now, that's not a good market for Apple. You know, they don't make cheap little pieces.
No, you're not gonna get $1,000. I mean, realistically, you are not getting $1,000 computer, a 50-inch screen with a computer inside for $1,000.
That made me curious. That made me think about the Apple TV rumors, and it made me wonder. Apple, listen, certainly they could have a misstep, but I would have to say over the past 5 years especially, they've done an amazing job of hitting the right product at the right time in the right market, and releasing a TV in 2012 might be a mistake.
Yeah, but, all the rumors are coming from Steve Jobs. Yeah. Tim Cook has not come out and said, well, yeah, we have an Apple TV coming out. We're developing
There's not a lot coming from Steve Jobs. I mean, so, his comment, like, we finally cracked it.
We finally cracked it.
He could have been, the thing he cracked was not how to make a TV.
And then he spoke about a remote.
It could be all kinds of things. I mean, so we'll see. I'm obviously, I mean, Apple is an endless source of fascination. So
in my opinion,
very interesting.
The Apple TV that they are discussing, I think what they're going to do and how they're going to crack it, which would be a great step in the right direction, is what we have been talking about with Google TV. I believe they're going to have a tiny little box that's non-existent that connects to the web wirelessly. And as my dog is trying to eat chocolate, Spencer, stop it.
Please don't die.
I'm doing a show right now. Thank you. They're going to have this little tiny box. It's going to connect to the back of the TV.
Yep.
And we're going to have this revolutionary remote that cracks it. And that's what cracks it.
Okay, actually, I would take it a different direction. When you think about the phrase "we cracked it," what needs to be cracked about the TV market exactly?
The screen.
Well, no, I mean, in other words, what's broken?
Okay.
What's broken? In many ways, what's broken is that thing you and I somehow keep going back to, which is how crappy that set-top box is. What if what they cracked was the relationship with these companies, that they went to Fios and Xfinity and whoever else and said, look, you put crap out, but everyone loves us. Let us do it. I could pitch it. When Apple was making a phone, everyone said no to them except for Singular, which became AT&T. It was the last stop. There was no one left. Mm-hmm. Everyone had said no. This time around, when Apple comes to potential partners and says, we want to do something on your network, in this case, phone network or TV networks, or cable provider networks, I don't think anyone's going to say no to these guys. Everyone knows that everyone loves Apple. It would be crazy not to say yes to those people.
And they're one of the only ones that have that relationship. And I believe they're going to be able to integrate the Apple experience in the TV.
That to me is far more compelling than
a TV.
Here's a thing that you can hang on your wall and maybe buy a new one of every 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
That's just a thing.
And I had this discussion with somebody, Paul, and they said, well, why would Apple want to? And I said, it has to be cheap. It has to be inexpensive. It has to get grandma in the Apple environment. It has to get grandpa in it. It has to get the soccer mom. It has to get everybody. And the person I was discussing this with said, well, why would they want to lose money on a device? Why would they want to not make as much money as possible? Isn't that what Apple does? I said, yeah, but they are going to make a lot of money because they're going to have apps. You're going to be using an Apple device. And just like what happened with the iPhone, people are going to potentially buy other devices.
How do I say this? You can do a Bing search on Xbox 360 today, and you can do it for a movie. And it may give you search results that go across various services like Vudu and Netflix and Hulu Plus, if it's on all three, and that's neat. And a Google TV type device could do that as well. But the way Apple would do it would be to integrate with just their stuff. So, for example, you're going down the guide and you see a movie, and it's halfway over, and you wish you could have seen the whole thing. And so one of the things you can do today on your cable box is click on it, get more information, and you can say, see upcoming shows. And if there is an upcoming show, you can schedule it for recording. But what if there isn't one? What if you could then click on it and say, rent this at the iTunes store?
Yeah.
Or buy it from the iTunes store. What if, that kind of integration would benefit Apple directly on an ongoing basis? And it doesn't really harm the cable company, because now they're sort of providing a service that doesn't exist. They're not doing something in replacement of them. I mean, it does, who cares from their perspective? I mean, it would be better for Verizon Fios for you to buy the movie from Apple or rent it than for you to record it and take up space on their DVR service.
Yeah, and they would get some sort of cut if they work a deal like that.
You're paying for the service regardless.
They
don't make, Verizon doesn't make more or less money based on how much stuff you watch. I mean, unless you're buying like on-demand stuff. I mean, so.
Two more predictions, Paul.
That's good.
From actually people messaging me privately now that are fans of the show. Okay. One is this person predicts that we are going to start seeing potential cable companies going online, and eventually in the coming years totally killing off their cable channels and being exclusively online.
IPTV based. Yeah.
IPTV based. And I do think that we are going to see one or two people try this.
I mean, this is sort of what Fios is doing, isn't it?
Fios is doing this, and they're testing it.
Well, I mean, but even Fios as it exists today, they had to lay they're not pipes, but
I think people are going to.
They had to lay the fiber.
But people are going to totally ignore Fios. They're going to ignore these cable companies. They're going to go directly online. They're going to say, well, here's our content. It's live programming. It's the traditional TV experience that we get.
So is this like a professional podcasting kind of a thing? What are we talking about?
No, I think we're going to see, and I keep saying I think today. I don't know why I can't stop that. We're going to see someone like Viacom, for example.
Oh, okay.
Launch a channel online as a testing phase to see if it'll work, and sell traditional ads like they sell for TV, and it'll be a live format rather than having pre-recorded content that anybody could click and watch.
You know what needs to happen, though, before that can happen? Everyone has to have Google TV on their TVs.
Yeah.
So they have some way to access it.
But or they can watch it on their computer. A lot of people just watch it on their laptop. And the second one, Paul, maybe we totally forgot about this, but Skype. What's going to happen with Skype in 2012?
What do you mean?
Considering Microsoft, now owns Skype, are we going to? And I hope, and again, I get hate mail for this. I really hope that they say, well, you know what? Here's the free version. Anybody could use it. But now we have a premium version, and you pay. And I'll pay $40 a month for this thing.
Uptime or something, or guaranteed reliability.
It's for telepresence, so we would compete with all the telepresence companies out there, which is a huge thing. And Microsoft has a huge hand in enterprise. They're going to have a high quality HD stream for telepresence that's stable, and it has high end audio, higher bitrate audio and higher bitrate video compared to what everybody else is getting. Better conferencing, better quality.
Sure.
And they have the means to do this, because this is something that they really don't compete in. They don't compete in telepresence.
Right.
I know they have. They've tried before, right? Didn't they have a product years ago, or they were attempting to get into that market and they didn't?
Telepresence?
Yeah.
Not that I.
But for home use, not corporate. I forgot what it was. There was something like you set up the webcam on there and it worked, and I think Microsoft was behind it. I could be totally wrong.
Jeez. I don't remember. So,
I mean, this is a great way for. Yeah, I don't remember. This is what I would love to see, because it's a brand that I'm familiar with that works properly.
Well, and you rely on it every day, too.
And I rely on it every day.
Yeah.
And I would love to pay for something to work properly.
To work better, yeah.
Yeah. And another thing, actually, Nicholas in our chat says, do you think that big TV companies setting up online streaming, they're going to be setting up online streams like Netflix? I think they're going to attempt it eventually, but I don't think it's going to work, really.
Technology has really democratized the way that people can deliver content. And, there are kind of mom and pop operations and individuals who can broadcast. And, Louis C.K. just did that thing where he provided a 1 hour live performance for $5 and made $1 million selling it to people directly online. So I think it's inconceivable that these big companies, Viacom and so forth, can't look at what's happening in the world, look at YouTube, and see the opportunity there to extend their brands in new ways, and that people need to think outside the box when it comes to TV and movie programming, because we don't all sit down at 8 p.m. on Thursday like we used to watch the two great shows that were on and the two loser shows they used to stick between them.
Yeah, other than sports, right?
Other than sports,
yeah,
and even sports. I mean, sports primarily is always going to be a live thing, of course. But even sports are probably heavily DVR'd because people have favorite college teams or something and can't see them, and whatever it is. I think sports is also a time shifted thing. But yes, I mean, sports is probably the last great need for live programming, plus disasters or big news stories. I mean, I think those are the, those are going to be the big holdouts.
By the way, Paul, I'm sorry for your loss on Christmas.
So,
by the way, for people, 99% of the people watching won't get it. During Christmas, the Knicks played Boston, and Paul and I were in a text battle during the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
And
I
won.
It's good though, because it's important that I be able to hone my trash talking, and it's a long season. I'm going to, well, it's a short season really, but it's going to feel long because they're squeezing a bunch of games in. But I'm actually I share seasons tickets with my brother, so I'm going to go to my first game will be the opening night, which is Friday night.
Who are they playing?
Who are they playing? You think I would just know that, wouldn't you? Let me look. They're playing the Detroit Pistons.
Okay.
7:30 p.m. But I think I have a Nets. Let me look. I think, or rather, a Knicks game. Thought I did. Yeah, I'm actually going to see them play the Knicks in February.
Okay. I'm sure the Knicks will lose, so you could get.
Well, things are going to change. I mean, we didn't have Paul Pierce. My understanding is you had some kind of a key injury as well. So.
Yeah, but we had the refs on our side, according to you.
Oh, come on.
Paul messaged me. He
Seriously?
goes, how much were the refs?
That was horrific.
Yeah, I agree with you. But, Paul, this was the last show for the year. Now, you came on board over the summer. You've been with us for a couple months. Will we see Paul Thurrott in 2012?
Is this a prediction or a wish?
It's a question viewers have been asking me.
I see it. Yeah, of course. Well, yes, of course.
So Paul is coming back in 2012.
Yep.
But I will be leaving, actually.
Yeah, exactly. That was the stipulation.
That's part of the deal. I'm going in 2012, but Paul is staying. I'm going to be replaced with a cat, actually.
Right.
The cat knows more than me.
It'll be a cat playing the piano.
But it was an interesting year and a very eventful year for technology and the ups and downs. The loss of Steve Jobs. I wouldn't say unexpected, but kind of unexpected that it was so soon. And it's really that's gonna change in a strange way. That's really gonna change the direction that technology goes and Apple goes in 2012. Will they be as dominant as they were with the phone market and the tablet market in 2012? I don't think so. Yeah, I think it's going to be different.
They have the same pull. The things we didn't get to see was Steve Jobs bargaining with people. I mean, he was apparently a master at that kind of thing and getting his way. And now he's gone. And I'm sure there are good people there, but it's not going to be the same.
And we're also facing, Microsoft's most extreme change ever, in my opinion, of that operating system. We're taking this operating system that we are familiar with. The back end is still there, of course, but we're taking this operating system that has virtually been the same look and feel since 1995.
Yep.
Well, you could even say 3.1.
Right. Yep.
Since 94, and we are changing it to this new, different style of using the software, and who knows where that's going to go. So it's going to be a fascinating year. Somebody, and I have to argue with this, a journalist that I know recently said that we are going to have, it's going to be like 2008. 2012 is going to be like 2008.
What does that mean?
Where it's going to be just a strange year for technology. We're not really going to get much. It's just going to be a flatlined year, and I don't agree with that.
No. First of all, Apple is revving every single one of their major products next year.
Everything. Yeah, and the MacBooks, we forgot about that. The MacBooks are gone.
Huge.
It's all Airs.
Microsoft is coming up with a new version of Windows that will, I think, make or break this company in major ways. That's huge. Google has finally shipped a version of Android that makes sense, and they're already dominating the market, by the way. So that's going to have repercussions in the tablet market in particular. I think next year is a very important year. Next year is huge. It's absolutely huge.
Paul, but we should wrap it up because we've done nearly 2 hours, and we generally do only about an hour 15, but these are big shows. This is the final show, so next week we are off. There's no show next week.
I'm probably going to show up anyway, and I'll just talk to an empty room. But
we could do that. We could just put the camera on you. I won't be here. Actually, what we're doing, we're redoing the studio here at the GFQ compound.
Right.
We're tearing everything apart and painting and redoing the lighting and changing the camera angles.
Nice.
So
I should do the same. See, I've been meaning to redo my office.
Oh, we could do it together, Paul.
Just leave Skype on.
I'm actually going to be streaming the work getting done in the studio.
By the way, if I come home one night and I do see the Knicks on TV, just keep your cell phone handy because you might be getting some.
No, I'll have it on. I always have this thing on me because now I like my phone rather than hating it and wanting to throw it against the wall.
I'll send you a picture from the garden. You know, the other garden.
Yeah, you could do. Oh, the other garden, not the garden though. Check out Paul. Are you live this week on Windows Weekly?
Yes.
Okay.
In fact, we're doing our, I think, best and worst of Microsoft for 2011. Shows.
Oh, wonderful. So check out Paul every Thursday on the Twit Network for Windows Weekly at 2 p.m. East and whatever time it is locally for you. Paul and I do this show live every Tuesday afternoon at 4 p.m., generally about an hour, but we give you guys a little extra show every now and then. Follow Paul on Twitter at The Rodfault. You can follow me at Andrew Zarian. I don't really say much. I'll say, I sometimes retweet what Paul says. I'll comment on a product. I'll ask questions, but you're not going to learn much from me. I'm just telling you. It's a great way of selling myself, right? Check out Paul's. I'm honest, at least.
I feel like I've learned something from you.
Yeah, I'm really honest. Check out Paul's website, winsupersite.com, my favorite site in the world. Paul, what's the latest blog up there?
I'd have to look, but it could be. I put up this awesome post today. I kind of stressed over this for a little while, but I found an article or a letter I wrote really in 1994-95 advising somebody, and I don't remember who, about what to look for in buying a PC. And it's pretty long, and it's like this description of what it's like to buy a computer.
Paul, is that you? Is that picture of you?
Yeah.
Paul in 94, holy cow.
Yep.
Very serious, very stern look on you.
That picture, by the way, was taken with an Apple Quick Take camera, which was one of the first digital cameras. It's certainly the first one I'd ever seen. I think they only made 2 versions of it or something. But.
Wow, look at that.
Yep.
Look at that. That thing is awesome. So really interesting blog. I'm going to read this. I didn't see this. So Paul always has something interesting on the website. Also, guys, if you are a fan of the show, you could download the podcast. You could check out the audio or video show at gfknetwork.com, our website. And you can subscribe to us on iTunes. It's a huge help for us when you do that, when you do subscribe on iTunes. And if you get a chance, leave a comment on iTunes. Leave something nice saying, Paul's hair is fantastic because he's a little, nervous about how his hair looks on camera.
I don't know what it is today. My hair is...
It looks fine. You're doing that messy hipster look. I get it.
I'm not doing any kind of a look. That's what's weird about it. I don't know what's happened here. It's just kind of... I don't usually have to do anything to it. It usually just kind of shows up. I don't know what happened today.
One of the funniest emails that I get on a regular basis is comments about hair, your hair, that is, Paul. And they say you have great hair.
Wow.
Yeah, they're a fan of Paul Thurrott's hair.
Wow, but look at you. Look at you with this jet black mane of hair.
And I don't dye my hair.
No, it's incredible.
Yeah, it's a whole thing.
It's like Sly Stallone hair.
It's a whole thing, Paul. My biggest fear is losing my hair. That's the end of the network if that happens, because my whole thing is based on this. It's not talent or anything. It's just hair.
Just hair.
Yeah, I don't have to do anything. I just have to come on with this hair. And they go,
that's why I latched onto this myself.
I think that's what it was. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. I want to wish everybody a happy and safe New Year, and we'll see you all in 2 weeks for What the Tech. Good night, everybody.